we have a hell of an episode today. We are going to welcome on Nicole and Brooke, fellow online trainers that are also in Jordan Syatt and Mike Vacanti's online fitness mentorship that I am also a part of. Okay, we have a ton of questions from people on Instagram, on YouTube, a bunch of different places where you can follow us. And we're just going to hammer through them all and see how many we can get done in that time. We answer a ton of different questions. We go very in depth on how to train postpartum. Okay, for those of you new moms out there, we do a ton of that, and it's not just a male's perspective. We have two women that are very, very knowledgeable in the subject. And we also talk a ton about vegetarian and vegan options when it comes to food. We also dive into the topic of how to help your spouse with their fitness. A little touchy, but we have some great ideas that are thrown around. So I hope you guys enjoy this podcast. Buckle up. Here we go. It looks like Johnny's running late. We'll get started without him. Hopefully he'll jump in. Okay, so welcome, guys. Welcome, Nicole. Welcome, Brooke, to the Coach Fitzz podcast. Jeez, I do a lot of outtakes, but this is going to be one. We're just going to keep it going.
Okay.
So, welcome to the podcast. Okay. For anyone listening, we're going to be answering questions. Be sure to go check out part 1 on Johnny's podcast. Okay, I'll put that in the description below. Okay, we answer random questions from those of you that responded to our Instagrams. Okay, we have a long list. We'll try and get through as many as possible. I think like you guys have about like an hour, right? 30 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll try and get through like, we'll say 10 minutes a question, 5 or 6 of these. And then I got to ask you my question that I ask every guest on the podcast, but I'm not going to give that away just yet.
Oh, no.
Okay, so let's start it off. We're going to go by order of attendance. So because I am starting the podcast, I'm not going to put myself first. Nicole, you're going to be first. And then Brooke, you'll go, then I'll go. And then next, we'll start off with Brooke and keep that going.
Okay.
No number generators because I'm still convinced that was messed up last time.
You never got to go first.
Yeah, I was sitting there like, all right, I'll just wait.
Take me. Yeah.
I like going last. It helps me formulate my ideas. So
that's true.
That being said, Nicole, you're on the hot seat.
Okay.
All right. First question we got. My daughter turned vegan a couple of years ago, or vegetarian a couple of years ago. Sometimes I buy fake meat products for her. I lean on Beyond Meat products and a couple others. But when I look at the ingredients, I question them. They look somewhat okay, but I fear they are bad because of the processing. And then she put in parentheses that changes the makeup. But quotes, pea protein sound okay, right? I'm still scratching my head, feeling like I'm the bad mom because anything processed is usually bad, right? Loaded question there.
Wow, that is a loaded question. I'll start by saying anything with less ingredients is going to be better for you. That's definitely, your intuition is good there. The less ingredients it has just means the more natural it probably is. That being so, I'm just right away thinking when I'm thinking like vegetarian or vegan, like tofu, thinking like beans, things like that are probably going to be like your more natural items. But I will say, I wouldn't say all processed things are so bad for you. So, you want to read the back, but I would say try to balance it out. Like if you're going to have your meat have some sort of processed element to it, maybe the snacks you eat throughout the day or the sides you have on the plate, avoid those being processed as well. So just keep like raw veggies, fruits throughout the day, things like that to kind of balance it out. It is hard when you have a vegan diet to find things that work for you. So just making sure you're getting more, the nutrients is where I would worry first. And make sure, throughout the day, the protein, all that stuff is in there if you're vegan, and kind of start there and then work your way up. I'm not vegan, I will say, so I know it must be challenging to find all the right options, but that's kind of where my head leans first.
Yeah, sorry, vegetarian. I corrected it, but now it's in all of our heads. We hear the trigger word.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Well, vegetarian's a little bit easier then. You can find a lot more options if you're vegetarian than when you're vegan. So that's even better, I would say. But yeah, same thing, less ingredients on the back is going to mean probably better things, but nutrients when you're vegetarian, really important that you are watching, making sure you're getting enough protein, things like that, so that you're keeping all of your nutrients good.
Awesome. All right, Brooke, you're up.
I would have to say, really, the first thing that comes to mind when I think vegetarian is the first thing I think of is, okay, where are you getting your protein? So planning your meals around protein, or planning your daughter's meals around protein, is going to be very important first and foremost. And so you have tons of options. If for now that we're talking about vegetarianism versus veganism, that makes it a little bit easier. You can have like low fat or non-fat Greek yogurt with fruit. That's a good lower processed way to go. You have the Beyond Meats aren't too bad. I do work with a lot of vegan clients, though I'm not vegan. And that's one of the meat substitutes. It's not nearly as processed as some of your other options like Morningstar or the corn brand. But also dairy, vegetables and whatnot around that, and healthy complex carbs like oatmeal, rice, things like that. So sneaking in protein where you can.
Sorry, we lost you a little bit in the middle, but I think we got pretty much everything that you said after Greek yogurt and in between how you just finished up. Sorry, but do you have anything else? Did I miss anything?
Not really. Just after like the yogurt, things like egg whites or eggs or any type of like low to non-fat dairy options are typically a little bit higher in protein. So I would just if your daughter ate meat as well.
Yeah. Awesome. I mean, you guys pretty much nailed it, but I mean, I'll just give my 2 cents. But we'll start with the processed thing, because a lot of people do fear processed, and it's not the end of the world. It's probably not the best option, but the problem with processed foods is there's so much other crap added in, and that can be an irritant. Like when people say, oh, all the chemicals or all the this and the that, it's not necessarily just that they're inherently bad. It's that the chances of something pissing off your body are very high. And when you bring that ingredient label down a little bit and you go for whole foods that are single ingredient, you could nail it and be like, if this doesn't sit well, it was that. If you have a protein bar that's got a laundry list of ingredients and you eat it and you feel like garbage after, you're like, well, I've got 50 things to choose from that could have been the problem. So it's a little bit easier to narrow it down. Plus all the sodium, like for a child, the sodium content probably isn't something to worry about. But if you have heart problems or like you are directed by your doctor to go lower sodium, then obviously going away from the processed stuff is just a simple way to reduce your sodium intake throughout the day. Another thing with the vegetarian is the deficiencies that it brings. Like you guys were talking about, you miss stuff. Like when you hear vegetarian or vegan, you think off the top of your head, like B vitamin deficiencies, possibly iron, depending on how you're doing it. Because a lot of people, when they go vegan, vegetarian, they don't do it the right way at first. It's all like we were talking about the keto foods, like the Franken foods, where it's like, I just want to have the donuts and the candy bars that say vegan or vegetarian on them.
Yeah.
And then they miss a ton of stuff. And there's these gaping holes in their nutrition and they feel low energy and they wonder why. And then the last thing is the quality of protein, because when you go for vegan, vegetarian sources, usually it's not a complete protein. For anybody that doesn't know what a complete protein is, it has all the essential amino acids. And a lot of times, more times than not, when you go for a plant option that is for your protein, it's going to have essential amino acids, but not the full profile. That's why you need to combine. Like you see a lot of vegetarians going rice and beans, or like combining. You see the high quality protein ones. Like if you're in the market for a protein powder that's really good for vegan, vegetarian, look for one with multiple sources, like the pea protein, like she mentioned, pumpkin protein, rice protein, all that stuff is usually really good and it'll nail it. But at the end of the day, it's not as high of a quality. There's not as much of a concentration of those essential amino acids, but it's better. It's like good, better, best. That's a better option. So did we nail that one?
I think we nailed it.
I think so.
All right. Anything else to add or on to the next one?
I think we scared the mama. Sorry.
On to the next.
Sorry, big mama. we say it with love. Is that a husky? No, what is that?
It is. This is Audi.
Hi, Audi. Does he have the two colored
He
eyes,
popped
or
up to say hello.
does he have the two colored eyes or blue eyes?
No, just bright blue.
Okay, cool.
Bright blue. Yep.
Cool. All right, next one. We got, what is the funniest, most embarrassing gym moment you've ever had? This one was from one of my followers.
Oh my God.
What?
And I am so ready for this one. So it is Brooke's turn. Let's hear it. Most embarrassing / funny gym moment.
Okay, so there is one that I will not share just because it's
Come
way
on.
TMI. So
Just so you know, my
it
listeners have
has to
heard
do
it
with
all.
like. All right. Wow.
Oh no, we can't lose her
Brooke,
at
we
this
lost
point.
you.
No,
If
no.
you guys loaded gun question. Okay, can you hear me?
Now
Yes.
we're good.
Is that better?
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe
I
not.
was like, oh no, they're gonna think I'm trying to ditch out on the question. All right, is that better?
This West Coast Wi-Fi is just not the same.
Oh my gosh. All right, let's see here. So this one is one of those moments in the gym that like every woman dreads. And I was deadlifting. Oh God, this is so embarrassing. Okay. I was deadlifting and I went to brace and I think I was trying to hit a PR, like a 4 rep max. And one of my biggest fears is like farting in the gym. Like I hate it. Not only did I fart, but it was that time of the month and I created pressure and feminine product came out as I was deadlifting. That was like the worst experience.
Oh my God.
10 out of 10 don't recommend.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Yes,
man.
if you're listening, it can be worse.
I can't even think of one like.
Oh man. Well, there's no shame after that
Nobody knew.
point.
Nobody knew. So that was, I mean, they knew about the fart, but nothing else. So
It's bad enough.
Damn. Well, I think I got the guy version of that for mine.
Great. I'm
Yeah.
great.
What is going on with your bodily functions, people?
You push hard enough, bad stuff happens. So I guess it's my turn. So mine happened to be at the prime time of high school. And instead of gym class where we do the BS, like, oh, we're playing a different sport every day, we had weight room as an option. So obviously being a football player, my coach grabs all of us and says, you don't really have an option here. You're going to weight room. So we're all in there and I've got a decent amount of weight on the bar and I was one of the stronger in the group. So like when it happened, like when 2 or 3 plates go up, like I had 4, I think at the time on each side, and people turn their head to watch and kind of like NASCAR, they hope for a crash and see like you fail. So I have directly behind me, literally within like arm's length, is a girl that I had a huge crush on at the time.
Oh, no.
And I go down to squat and simultaneously not only fart, but I rip my shorts in the process and get pinned by the weight. So, and my coach was spotting me at the time, like he helped me up and everything, but he just like, it was one of those where he just shook his head and walked away.
I thought it was gonna be so much worse. Like I thought, I thought this was good. I mean, that was bad, but I thought something else was gonna come out. I was like, what?
No. Thank God that was the most of it. But hey, when you're in high school, that's the end of the world
terrible.
right there.
Actually, when you asked that question, the first thing that went to my mind was like high school. Like it has to be in high school. I feel like I am trying to think of one. I have 2 that both happened in like sports, I would say, in high school, but I was a gymnast and a cheerleader, and I'm like 6 foot, so I should not have been in the sport, but I was a gymnast and a cheerleader in high school. And I used to get really bad bloody noses. I almost broke my nose. So I would get them out of nowhere, like in the middle of nowhere. And I remember one time I was practicing, we had like a competition. We were going out for a meet in front of the whole school. And I did a backflip like in practice, and literally in the middle of it, my nose started bleeding. I just grabbed my nose and like ran to the bathroom, and they still made me go out, and they put a tampon in my nose, and I went out on the mat, and everybody was like, Nicole, why is that? Literally after the whole thing, I was like, why is there a tampon in yours? I was like, I don't want to talk about it. Like, did the whole thing, which just like, just the whole thing in it. So yeah, that was probably mine.
Oh, please tell me you've seen that movie, She's the Man.
Yes, I love that
Yes.
movie.
Were you like, oh, it's not just me?
I was just like, this is just, I'm trying to block this out. And I'm also, my nose was bleeding while this was happening. So I was like out there competing, like with my nose bleeding. Like I was like, please don't bleed. Please don't bleed. It's good
That's
stuff.
pretty badass though, that you just kept going.
Right?
Like that's pretty badass.
I only had a choice, but yeah,
You're dying of embarrassment. All these other girls competing are like, oh shit.
Yeah. I was the lead, like I was the tallest one, so I was always like also like the lead vocal one. So like they had to look at me before anything. The whole room had to like look for my cue, and I was like, don't look at me. Oh my god, that's funny.
Oh man. Well, that was a good one. So,
maybe I just don't get embarrassed enough.
all right, here's a really good one. How do you support your spouse on their own fitness? Okay, so Nicole, you went first. Brooke, you went first. It's John. Oh wait, Johnny's not here. My turn. I'm gonna keep calling him out till he shows up.
Literally, man.
Okay. Well, I'm actually like I'm in a situation right now where my girlfriend right now is very into like doing her own thing. Just like if she gets a workout in, it's like a huge win. And I'm like, great job, like trying to be super supportive. Like it's tough when you're in the fitness industry and you want to like, as trainers with their clients, like we do have the bad tendency of pushing our own goals onto our clients sometimes. And you kind of got to check yourself a little bit. And with, at least in my situation, like I have her doing like P90X and Pilates and stuff. And I'm just like, I'm holding back, like, you know, you might get a little more benefit from doing like a little strength training and all this. And at the end of the day, it's like, no matter what we say, it's never going to sound good. I could give her the best advice in the world and she's still going to hate me. So, so all you can do is be supportive and offer help when they ask, not like push it. And that's what I've been going with. So I don't know if you guys do something similar.
Yeah. So my boyfriend, he was really athletic growing up, and like during quarantine, he kind of like lost the chance to go to the gym. He wasn't working out the same because he was a person who always worked out at the gym. And I always did home workouts. I was like, home workouts are great. Like do home workouts, and wasn't his thing. And I think a lot of it is like meeting them where they are. So like if there's somebody who likes a certain thing and like that will push them to get going. Like for example, I was like, let's go to a gym, like rent out a studio for an hour and just go do a workout. And like just doing that, meeting him where he was and what he liked to do, like he automatically was like, you know what, I'm into this again. Like I want to go back. I'm excited about it. So I feel like finding something to spark their motivation, spark their interests is probably the way to motivate them more than anything you'll say. Is like, encourage them to find their way to do things they like, to try things, to, pursue different things. Go with them. If they want to go to a class or something and they need somebody, they don't have a buddy, go with them, like show up for them. When it comes to eating, like if they're trying to be healthy, like try to be healthy with them, like try to meet them where they are and like support them in more of an actionable way. So they feel like they're not alone in it. I think that works really well for anybody who's trying to get motivated. Is just like finding the things that they need other people to show them and be with them in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with both of you. So I have a similar situation as Brian, where I have a fiance who he works in IT. So he is very sedentary. He is not one that like enjoys going to the gym. He actually struggles with gym anxiety. So it can be very difficult when like my life, right? As fitness professionals, like it's our life. We love being in the gym. We love coaching people and helping. But I also love what Nicole said about meeting them where they're at. So if like, for example, like my fiance says, yeah, I really think that I'm going to get back in the gym soon. I have to like hold back, just like Brian does, from being like, okay, well, this is what you should do. This is where like this is what your program should be. And like, although you sit all day, like every one chest exercise, double up your back exercise, it's like I have to like put a cap on it and start with like, oh, you know what? That's a really good idea. If you want help, let me know. Having to like step back and like turn the trainer off can be a really hard thing to do. And so I love Nicole's message of like meeting them where they're at. Like right now, he doesn't want to cut out Taco Bell. So let's just work on adding vegetables. Like, so little things like that. And whenever you notice that your spouse or your partner is like making choices that align with what they've told you that their goals are, celebrate that, no matter how small it is. Like, hey, I noticed that you went grocery shopping and you bought a bunch of vegetables. Like, right on. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. And then they're going to feel a lot more inclined to continue to do that. But nobody's going to do it unless they really want to. So that's something that I think both of you hit the nail on the head with that.
I was going to say, Brooke, really like what you were saying too, never critique them, only celebrate them. That's one that I feel like sometimes you don't even realize you're doing it. Like you say something that might trigger them and might discourage them. Like if you're saying like, oh, I noticed you're not eating Taco Bell anymore. Like, that's nice. Don't focus on those type of things. Focus on the things they're doing well. Like, hey, I noticed you're eating, like you made a really great lunch. That was a super healthy lunch. Focus on that instead of critiquing anything they're doing. Critiques when you're first starting out can feel really hard to understand and like figure out how to come out of them. So just getting them to focus on continuing to do the good things, the things that are working, the things that are good for them. That's where you want to continue to push them and celebrate them.
Yeah. And also from like a guy's perspective towards the like encouraging part, because I know our species is not exactly the greatest at communicating. you guys might agree.
Oh, you know,
guys out there, when you want to celebrate your girl or your whatever, like your significant other, complimenting is like, even the little stuff makes a huge difference. Like I'm king of like noticing and not saying, but like saying the small things like, wow, you're looking really good today. Just, I don't know what it is, you're just looking amazing. Like those little things earn you huge brownie points. So dude, don't be afraid to throw them out.
You tell me that my quads look bigger. Oh, honey.
Yeah, you just need to know the right you need to know the right compliments because
you
say that to the wrong person could end poorly.
Yeah.
Don't be like, oh, your ass looks bigger, and it's like that's not the goal. Like,
you're like, I'm trying to shrink it.
Yeah, and then you're sleeping on the couch. We all know how that. I go with you're looking lean, babe, and that's it.
Smart man.
Generic.
Smart man.
All right. We pretty much nailed that one too. Okay. So this one I think is a really good one for Nicole. Can a male trainer properly train a woman postpartum, especially if there are injuries from the birthing experience?
I mean, absolutely. I think when it comes to postpartum, you need to be really educated on the actual like situation, like what actually went through before they were pregnant, when they, were pregnant, had the birth, and after. Like, you need to be very conscious of the medical side of what went on there, as well as like their emotional experience, because their bodies are changing so much. And mentally, coming out of a pregnancy and actually having the child, like not only are you exhausted, but your body has changed a lot. And a lot of women are not really comfortable with that and don't also know what to expect when they come on to the other side of that. And honestly, Brooke is probably going to be really good one to talk about this because she's had a child. But a lot of the women I work with postpartum, first of all, they are not, usually ready to jump into it right away. And a lot of them, when they are ready, they are not the same. They're not physically in the same place to go do like the types of workouts they were doing before they had the child. Unless they worked out, for instance, through their entire pregnancy and had a really successful, like a really easy pregnancy where there wasn't any major issues. Some of those women, they are ready to get back into it pretty well. But you'll see a lot of people like their abs. A lot of women will have abs that tear, for example, when they have a child. A lot of women will have pain, a lot of pain all over their body that they don't really understand. A lot of women will just be like emotionally drained and energetically drained. So you need to find ways to really motivate them, push them, and encourage them, and also find a way to communicate with them that their body is not just going to like always be the exact body they had before, and that's okay, because that's part of the natural reason, like that's part of having a child. But finding a way to find progress in that for them that they'll feel really good about and powerful about again, because their life has changed and they need to feel that they're still strong and capable. So I think it's definitely doable. I think being a man, the experience is probably a little bit different because you don't understand, you've never experienced a lot of the things that women have to experience that come from, just our biology, like having your period, having, being pregnant, having a child, hormones. You're never going to know what that's like. It's a lot, but I think it's, you need to be a really, really good listener and just be really understanding of what they're going through and make sure to know when to push them and when not to push them. And just kind of like how to be there for them as a support system. I think more than anything, women are very strong, but they need a lot of support emotionally when they're going through things like that. So I think it's very doable. Just be, there for them and be very educated in what's going on.
Yeah.
All right, Brooke, you're up.
Yeah, so this is a good question. And for whoever asked this, I'm assuming it's a male trainer who asked. Good for you for asking, because my experience, I had my son, and shortly after healing, I had an emergency C-section. I worked with a male trainer who he's actually the reason I became a trainer, is so people don't have to have trainers like that. So
I thought that was going the other way.
Me too. I was like, wow, that's amazing.
Oh crap. Is that better?
So it was funny. It cut out right at the point where you're like, he's the reason I became a trainer. We were like, oh, that's so nice. And you're like, so it cannot be like that.
Oh, God. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So take it from there.
So what ended up happening was, like, injuries through childbirth, or they're a big deal. So like, I personally had an emergency C-section, so I had to wait a certain amount of time. Depending on the injury, you have to make your best judgment, because your core and your pelvic floor is very much affected whether you have a C-section or not. So depending on what your client's injuries are, I would definitely refer to like a pelvic floor physical therapist or specialist if needed, to make sure that there are no injuries that can cause harm if you're doing any core exercises. But when it comes to the training aspect, I would always recommend my fiance, sorry guys.
We figured.
He heard pelvic floor, he's like, what? No.
You sparked my interest.
I would always recommend, like, depending on the client, referring them out to like a physical therapist or medical attention if their injuries are continuously bothering them. But also remembering, like, it is a very emotional time as well. Like, your body changes and you don't feel sexy, like, especially if you're breastfeeding, like, you're not feeling sexy, your body doesn't feel like yours. So making sure that you are there emotionally for your client and doing like the same thing that we talked about in the previous question. Every win is a win at that point. Oh, you got, 5 hours of sleep instead of 3. Like, that's awesome. Like, I'm glad you could do that. Making a decision, like making healthy meal choices. Oh, that's great. Cause it's very easy to just grab whatever and eat it when you're hungry and you're tired and you're exhausted. So my biggest piece of advice is, like, stay in your lane if you have to. Like, try not to correct any injuries that you're not qualified to correct. But also find out something about your client that sparks their motivation. So if that's something like they want to learn how to squat, learning how to squat safely and teaching them how to do that, and knowing that, like, they're not breakable. Like, people aren't breakable, and we can tolerate, like, women are tough. Like, we can tolerate more than we like to give ourselves credit for, but also just really staying in that realm of knowing what your job is as a trainer, what you're qualified to do, picking exercises that are appropriate, and educate, like what Nicole said, educating yourself 100% is such a great one. And being there and empathetic, and being, like, sometimes a shoulder to cry on every once in a while. Don't become like their therapist, but I think that's, that would be super helpful.
Great points. And being the only male in the conversation, I'll close this out. I mean, I've actually had the opportunity to work with a handful of very amazing, super motivated new moms. And I got to say, you guys are in rare air as far as how motivated and how like tough you are, because the new moms are like insanely fun to work with, because it seems like, especially when they roll up asking for a trainer, they're like, all right, time to get the bod back, let's go. So it's like, it's so fun from the trainer's perspective. But that being said, like you guys said, there's a lot that you got to consider. Like, for example, like, I mean, what it really comes down to is picking the right exercises, like Brooke said, knowing your limits, because if you're trying to push a square peg into a round hole, it's not happening. Like if you have a woman that is telling you this does not feel good and you're still trying to load it and load it and load it, it's just never gonna get what you want. So load management is a big thing, starting slow and building up. So edging on the side of like less weight and maybe more time under tension or more reps might be the way to go in the beginning, and then slowly getting to more and more where the core is a little more demanding. But that's just the way I would prefer to do it. But there's probably a million other ways to go about that. But consulting with the PT is huge. Like if you have somebody that knows their shit, like I'm also very, very fortunate in the tri-state area that there's a ton of really, really good medical professionals over here. I bet in the West Coast, they have a ton over by you too, Brooke. Like we have some smart people out here that are really good at communicating with us, telling us exactly what to do. So get your trainer involved. And if you are a trainer, get involved if possible with their PT, because that handoff period is very important. And if they have somebody that cares, they're going to they should respond to you. So hopefully you're in a good situation when it comes to that. And then the other thing is just be understanding with some of the stuff, like their body is going to be so different than like the teenager you're working with. Like if you're telling them, tighten up the abs, and they're like, what? Like, I can't feel them. Like that can happen. Like some of them have literally had a knife cut down their stomach, and it's like that tissue is now compromised. Like it's not going to react the same way. And correct me if I'm wrong, Brooke, like it can feel different after a C-section, like bracing and like trying to get tight.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, right now, 8 years later, work with a therapist there that I needed. I mean, I was 21 years old. I thought my body would bounce right back. Not true. But I am now working with someone, and even 8 years later, like I'm still having issues with bracing and feeling that area of my core, depending on what type of C-section. I had an emergency one. They were more focused on saving my life and my son's rather than making sure all of my nerves were connected the right way. So it's very important to know that like the healing period is a very crucial time for anyone that's also had a C-section and a vaginal birth as well. But specifically, like you said, Brian, having a knife like cut through that tissue, the tissue is going to grow back and it's not going to be the same. So people can experience like extra tightness in the core. They can experience like numbness or tingling, which that's something that I've had to deal with. So it can be very uncomfortable. So listening to your clients, what they're telling you, and asking them, what does your pain feel like? Or what does this sensation feel like, to know the difference between maybe your abs working and contracting versus like nerve pain or burning or tingling or disengagement.
Yeah. And to that point, I mean, I don't want to leave this on like a sour note, but I am fortunate enough to have a girlfriend that just became a doctor, and she's done her rotations, been with a bunch of different types of doctors, and one of them being OBGYN, and she's been in the operating room. And she told me there are people that operate on women doing C-sections, and there's multiple layers to the abs that need to be restitched. Sometimes, like if you get a jerk off that doesn't want to do that extra layer, they'll just leave it. So you could be operating with an abdomen that is not properly stitched. So just for all the trainers out there, like you never know who they're working with. You never know what kind of doctor they're getting. So just be ready for, you might get people that don't exactly fit the criteria for what you think postpartum will be. Like there might be extreme cases like that.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, that's very true. And I mean, it happens more frequently than some people would like to believe, especially in situations where childbirth doesn't go well. And that just goes back to the point that Nicole made, like you don't know what they experienced in childbirth. And it could have been a very good experience, and it could also have been a very traumatic experience. So knowing that people are not just there for like physical benefit of the workout, but also they're there to help with their confidence, to help with feeling better about themselves and their experience. Because, you know, I know for me personally, it was a very difficult experience. And if you have a client that had that, also, you know, refer them to someone to talk to if need be. If you notice that that's kind of what's starting to happen with client sessions, we're people that can help in all aspects, physical, all that.
Really
Brooke,
quick,
oh no, sorry. I was just gonna say, Brooke, you were gonna make me earn my money editing this because you keep cutting out.
Literally.
I'm sorry, Brian.
I wanted to say one thing that came to my mind as I was thinking, something we didn't talk about too. If you are working with them on a nutrition aspect as well, you need to be conscious if they are breastfeeding. This is something that comes up a lot. A lot of trainers kind of forget this point. When they're breastfeeding, they're not supposed to be in a big calorie deficit. They need energy in order to one, they're burning a lot more energy than they were before, but they also need that energy to produce breast milk, and they need the right nutrients as well. Like their diet needs to be healthy and full of good foods for breastfeeding, and they can breastfeed for a very long time. So you want to make sure that you're very conscious if you are, working with them on the nutrition side, that you are being very considerate that they're going to be hungry and they might need a little bit more on that end. And that's okay. Like it might not be the best time to drop, 50 pounds right away. You got to ease into it, make sure that they have like that element as well covered, because, the baby's health is important in that aspect too.
Yeah. And I mean, we just covered a crap ton on that. That was a really, really good discussion on that.
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, like if you're a male trainer and your eyes just glazed over, I mean, at the end of the day, ask for help. Like if you can refer out to a PT, to a psychologist, to a nutritionist, or a registered dietitian, that's going to help your client probably the most efficiently. But if they don't want to go that route and they're just like, help me, that's do what you got to do, learn what you can to help them, put them in the best position, and listen to all the feedback that we just gave. But don't be afraid to ask for help, and always communicate with your client.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That's good.
On to the next one. We got, what are some ways in which one can change their body stats without losing weight? Okay. So Brooke, you're up. Did we lose her?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So many edits are going to be done.
Don't do it.
I feel like I cannot move. Like I can only move my lips, or else I'm gonna cut out.
You're good now.
Okay.
I hear you.
Okay, good. I'm like, my phone's not moving. I'm like, what the fuck? Okay. So how to change your body stats without losing weight? Well, you can recomposition. So you can still lose body fat and build muscle. You can do that in a slight calorie surplus, or you can do that in maintenance. That's really, I think, a really good way to maintain your weight and see the physical change in your body. I think that's a really great way. Or you can just go into a slight calorie surplus and just start going through either a strength phase or a strength block, or a muscle building phase, where you go through a hypertrophy phase and you just start gaining muscle, and you will gain a little bit of body fat when you do. Anything wrong with me? Did you? God damn it.
Tell me
oh my God.
No, but we heard most of it. Okay.
Don't worry, I'm looking
I'll
at my
smooth
internet.
this out. Okay. Well, Brooke, while you figure that out, Nicole, why don't you go and you answer the question?
So just so I understood this right, they're asking, how do they change their body composition without losing body fat?
Yeah, they said body stats. So for the sake of context, let's figure body stats mean percent body fat, skeletal muscle mass, and overall weight.
Yeah.
Or not changing weight.
Change their body stats without losing. I mean, if this question is really like asking it as simple as it might be, then yeah, what Brooke said is going to make a lot of sense. Like you can either, build strength, put on some muscle. That in itself will actually lower your body fat most likely, but it's not as intentional. But it'll, increase your muscle mass. It'll increase your, lean body mass. You could, I think that's really, if you don't want to lose body fat, really muscle is going to be where a lot of this comes in. But, increasing your endurance, increasing different things as well can kind of play in here. I don't know if there's more to this question. So that's kind of what I took from it, is just as straightforward as they're asking it. I don't know if you had other thoughts, Brian.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much what both of you said. I mean, there's a couple different ways to go about it. Like you can what I would start with is, where are you in your fitness journey? Because a lot of times when you talk about recomposition or anything like that, it really mainly applies to people that are new to the gym and people that are returning to the gym after a long break. And that's when you're in that sweet spot where you can gain muscle, lose fat, and you'd probably be best served if you were in a maintenance or a slight surplus, like Brooke was mentioning. You could also go like, so if say you're not new to the gym, you've been at it for a while. I mean, if we're talking like years, I'd say probably like 3 to 5. What do you guys think? 3 to 5 would be like a pretty consistent time where it probably wouldn't apply.
Yeah, I would say 3 to 5.
Yeah, 3 to 5 years. When you're at that point, you could do what's called like gaintaning, which is like a concept where it's like you're in maintenance calories, but you're kind of letting life be your surplus. So you're eating normal throughout the week and you're eating at maintenance. And then on the weekend, you're still sticking to those calories, but you'll be a little lenient. Like maybe you'll go out with your girlfriend or your boyfriend and you'll have that extra slice of cake, or you'll have a beer with the boys, or you'll have wine at night, whatever. And you let that be your minor surplus. And that could be a way where you're gaining muscle, you're keeping the fat at the same level, and you could do it that way. Or I've seen this happen a lot at our gym. Like you could go into a muscle building or strength phase, like Brooke mentioned, and you can gain a lot of muscle and a little bit of fat. But usually when you do that, if the muscle's going up high enough, and even if you are gaining fat, the percent of body fat is going to go down. So even with that added fat, you're gaining so much muscle that number, if you hop on an in-body or you're at home and you have one of those scales that do it for you, your percent body fat's probably going to go down, even if your weight goes up.
Yeah, I guess I would be wondering why they're asking. Yeah, it's a good point. Like I'd be wondering why they're asking that question, like why they would not want to lose body fat if there's a reason for it. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Okay. I think we covered that one. Did anything else come into your guys' heads? Like anything you'd want to throw in there?
No.
All right. Man, we're so much more efficient without Johnny.
It's matter.
Except for my patchy Wi-Fi. How am I engaged to an IT tech with shitty Wi-Fi? Like
that's true.
Oh
man.
All right. Next one. What are general ballpark calories for either slimming, bulking, or maintaining? Ooh, loaded question. Okay.
General, that's hard.
Yeah. All right. I guess I'm up. So you read that one again. Ballpark calories for slimming, bulking, maintaining. So ballpark calories for slimming. We'll start with that one. I know all of us are in Jordan Syatt's mentorship, and we hear it all the time, the rule of 12. So pretty much you take your goal body weight, multiply it by 12, and boom, there are your calories. Okay, it's a very simple way of doing it, and it's on the side of like losing a little bit slower, but for longer amounts of time, because the slower you go at it, usually the more you'll be able to, one, live your life, and two, keep that weight off. But if you wanted to lose it a little more faster pace, you could take 500 calories off that number too. But just be aware, chances of it coming right back are going to be a lot higher. Bulking's tough because my brother is built the complete opposite of me. He's an absolute twig that can eat Taco Bell, Wendy's, and Burger King every single day, ordering $20 off the menu and not gain a pound. Okay, so that being said, it depends on who you're working with. Like I know in that specific case with my brother, it came down to eating better quality foods, because especially when it comes to building muscle or just gaining weight in general, it comes down to absorption. If you're eating these foods that are not readily absorbed by your body, and your gut's pissed off every time you eat this certain food, if you're always going to the bathroom and you feel like garbage, it's probably not getting absorbed to the fullest potential, and you're probably not getting the most bang for your buck. Okay, there is a case for when you're trying to get a lot more calories in. Like, yes, sometimes quality has to go down, but not at the sacrifice of absorption. So doing that, and along with a solid training program where you're not killing yourself and you're providing enough stimulus to grow, that's usually the winning formula. When it comes to maintaining, again, it's very, very individual. It's like pretty much just eat whatever you're eating, track it and see where the weight goes. See what your weight does. If you're going up in weight, take a little bit away. If you're going down in weight, add a little bit and find that sweet spot. And you're always going to fluctuate like between like 3, 5, maybe if you're on the bigger side, 10 pounds during the week. But as long as that average of that 7 days, week to week, stays the same, you're golden. But it's going to take a little bit of experimentation. Okay. Nicole, you're up.
I will really leave this as like, it totally depends on the person. But there's one thing I want to say, especially if there are girls, women listening to this. And again, I work with a lot of women. So I will say most of the people I'm working with are usually in a calorie deficit or maintenance. In most situations, I don't have many people in a surplus. So I'll leave Brian to speak on that. But I will say to the woman listening to this, if you are trying to lose weight, I will give you a general rule of thumb is most women are going to fall within the 1400 to 1800 range, around there, if they are trying to lose weight. And I only want to say that out loud because I want you to know that's not a scary number. That's not too high for most women. For most people, depending on your height and what your weight is at now, that is a very great place to be. If you want to lose weight, you don't have to go down to 1200 or even 1300 a lot of times, depending on your height. But I just want to put that out there because if you are calculating your calories and you're like at 1100 because your goal weight is low, I want you to know that's probably pretty low and on the losing weight side. So 14 to 1800 is where most of my clients will fall. Even if they're, on the taller end, even if they're a bit younger, it doesn't matter. That usually tends to be a pretty good like gauge of it. The US standard is 2000 for maintenance for the average person, but I can't say that that's actually true for everyone. I'll just say like that is what the US has decided as like maintenance, which is why you'll see on the back of a lot of your food labels, it is based on a 2000 calorie diet. So yeah, I just want to throw that out there just to know like that most people are not going to have to be that low, as low as you think. And those numbers are not too scary if you are still trying to lose weight.
So Nicole, I know there are probably some people listening saying, bullshit, 1200 calories is the only way I'm going to lose weight. What would you say to them?
I'll tell them this. I'll say, have you tried it? How long were you able to do it? And while you were doing it, did it last long enough for you to actually lose weight over the course of 2 months? If it did, maybe that's what your body needs. I'll tell you most likely it doesn't. But what I'll tell you when it comes to losing weight, your goal is never to eat as little as you possibly can and then lose weight. The goal is to eat as much as you can and still lose weight. Because if you do that, you're going to be much, much happier. And most people can do that easily. They can lose a lot of weight easily if they are eating within that 14 to 1800 calorie range. Like, why do you want to suffer? Why do you want to do that to yourself? Exactly. Like, let yourself eat as much as your body and also let it eat that much so that your body gets used to that. So you can maintain your weight at that amount of calories and not have to continue to drop calories. So I'll tell you, try the higher calories. If it doesn't work, then you can come to me. But I promise you, if you stick to those calories for a long enough time, it'll work for you.
Yeah. You always want to leave a little something to take away, because what happens when you plateau? Where are you going to go from there? Yeah. You always need something to take away or reduce or add.
Listen, guys, I'll openly tell you, like, I've tried it too. I used to think that when I was little, I was like 1200 calories. Like, that makes so much sense. And you never can stick to it for more than 3 days because you'll be starving. And then that's where you go into that like binge on and off cycle. Like, you eat 1200 calories for 3 days. You're like, yes, I did it. I lost 3 pounds on the scale because you literally ate so much less than you were before. And then the next day you're like, I'm starving and I'm like animalistic. Like, I have no control over what I'm thinking when it comes to food. And that's what you want to avoid. You want to be in just way more of like an average place. Like I'm good. I'm kind of full. I can make it. That's where you want to keep yourself in. So Brooke.
All right, Brooke.
Yeah. So again, I agree with Brian with the goal body weight times 12. That's a really great place to start for a calorie deficit. Now, if you're transitioning from a deficit to maintenance, what I typically will have my clients do is, again, it's very individual. It's definitely based on you as a person, what your daily energy expenditure looks like, what your lifestyle looks like. So it is an individual based number. I typically go with a range for my clients. So 100 above or 100 below, right around there. So they're not getting stuck and hyper focused on one number that they have to hit. And if we're transitioning from a deficit into a maintenance, we'll add 200 to 300 calories each week until their weight starts to stabilize. So if they're continuing to go down, we just increase 100 or 200 to 300 calories per week. So that's like maybe 100 extra calories on your workout day, which is super easy to do. You're not over
Hello.
that better? Can you hear me?
You out, Brooke. You
You're
out.
back.
Oh my God. Dang it. Where did I leave off?
You were saying that you add like 200 extra calories a day until you stabilize, which is
200 to 300 per week. Actually, I do that per week.
Oh, okay.
Until their weight stabilizes, and then I will continue to do so in a surplus until they're gaining maybe 1 pound per month. So not a lot. That'll make it sustainable and minimize excess body fat gain.
Yeah. And to your point, it depends on the person. So it's like, if you want to try a little bit more of an aggressive one to get back to normal eating faster, you could do that. Like, I've had some clients, I've done like 100, 200 calories a day instead of the week.
Yeah.
And it also works. It's just, you got to be ready for that weight fluctuation, because you get a little bump on those days and then it comes right back down. So some people get freaked out. They gain like 3 pounds on Monday and they're like, what?
Yeah, that's why I typically do it in a very slow, gradual manner. So people don't see that and get the emotional reaction. They can see what it looks like over that week and go, oh, okay, this is supposed to happen.
I think like you said, Brooke, you were saying how like your calories are in a range. Like you tell people to eat calories in a range, which I think makes 100% sense. And I think one thing a lot of times, even as like a trainer, I forget to tell people this sometimes, but I think it really helps them to think about their weight. Like Brian, you said, like as a fluctuation and a range. I actually tell people the way you should think about your weight in general is a fluctuation. Like if you started at a weight of 180 and you're fluctuating on average between 182 and 179, and then in the next month, you're, fluctuating at 180 to 176, whatever it is, that means you've lost weight if you're continuing to fluctuate in a lower zone. So I tell people, like, don't think about your weight loss as just like 180, 179, 178. Think about it like if you stop hitting that higher number, all of a sudden you start to fluctuate at lower numbers. That means you're probably starting to actually lose weight, but the fluctuations are going to continue to happen. So if it spikes back up to the highest level of your fluctuation, that's okay. And I think that helps people a lot to think like, okay, if on Monday I did gain that 3 pounds, like, okay, well, let's see what happens on Tuesday. And kind of like where they land. And it helps a lot of people to become more comfortable with the scale.
I'm totally stealing that, by the way.
You never used that? I started using that on so many of my clients. It has changed the way they look at the scale. Like they're like, okay, I'm still in my range. Like I'm good. I'm like, okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
I'm a big fan of averages because I like the numbers and stuff. But I mean, honestly, that's so much easier. I'm totally stealing.
You should do that. I swear, like I don't know where I thought of this, but I think I decided to do a weight challenge for myself. I don't really weigh myself. I stopped doing it as well because I used to be uncomfortable with the scale, but I started doing it as I've been training as like an experiment to help my clients. Like I wanted to show them that this is what is going to happen. Like, I don't care if you look at me and think that doesn't happen to me. Like it does. So I wanted to show them that like you have a range and your goal is to get out of the range, not to just like drop weight. It's like change your range. Yeah. Do it.
I love that.
Very good points. All right. Well, we're approaching that hour and I don't want to take up too much of your guys' time. I know this is a fast hour.
Yeah, it really was.
Now we got to end with the question that every single guest gets asked on this show or this podcast. What is your favorite movie and why? I'll give you guys a sec to think. It's a lot. It tells you a lot about a person.
I actually know mine.
Okay, Brooke, lead it off.
Step Brothers. Or The Hangover.
Choice.
Or The Hangover. One of those two. The original Hangover.
Yes.
Oh my God, this is so hard. There's Netflix now. There's a million movies. I won't give you, I guess I don't have like a favorite movie, but I'll just give you a movie that I thought was hilarious that my whole childhood, like my parents had like 4 movies in the house. They had like a VCR, literally. I don't even feel like I'm that old, but that's where we were at. And I feel like there was one movie we watched nonstop. I don't even know if you guys will know it. It's called Cool Runnings.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I kid you not. Like when I think about my childhood, like whether that was my favorite movie or not, like I've seen it way too many times. I have no idea why it's in my house, but there you go. That's my characteristic.
Feel the rhythm. Feel the rhyme.
Feel the rhythm.
I love it. And anything that can make me laugh. Like Step Brothers, when they show up in the tuxedos and they're like, we're here to fuck shit up. Like that's how I want to approach every day.
Okay, I'm totally like a 2000s rom-com, like How to Lose a Man in 10 Days. The way so put me in the 2000s. It was a good time.
Hey, in all honesty, Nicole, I'm in the same camp. I like my guilty pleasure is watching chick flicks. I'm not gonna lie.
They're so
Like, if
good.
we're-
No, every man loves them. I know it.
Some of them are great. Like Mean Girls, I could quote all day.
Oh, yes.
Bridesmaids, I can quote that all day. There's some gold in those chick flicks.
It was that era, like the 2000s. Like the music was great, the movies were great. Like life was so happy, you know.
Oh yeah,
you feel good.
Back when Matthew McConaughey did all the rom-coms.
Oh my god,
golden era.
It's great
yes.
stuff. Kate Hudson. Yeah. It was
Jennifer
good. What's yours, Brian? What's yours? We got to hear yours. Sorry.
Mine's on the serious side. I'm a Braveheart. Like every time it's on TV, I will always watch Braveheart.
I haven't seen it.
It takes up a giant chunk of the day because it's like 3 hours long, but it's just got everything. You got your romance, you got war, you got comedy. It nails everything.
I haven't seen it.
It makes you cry.
It makes you cry, and it makes you like cringe a little bit and get squeamish. Like every emotion is experienced throughout that.
That's my least favorite emotion is like cringing. Like anything that makes me cringe, I like don't want to watch. I'm like, no.
Well, you just cut it out at the very end. Like when you see them strap them up to the table, you can end it there.
Okay, that sounds nice.
I swear it's a good movie, Brooke. You can
I believe
back me
you.
up on
If you
this.
like rom-coms,
it is. It's a great movie. Worth the watch for sure.
Okay.
Definitely. All right. Well, that is a great spot to end it. Thank you guys so much for coming on. This was an absolute blast. I hope we can do it again sometime soon. And where can people find you? We'll go Nicole first.
Oh, you guys can find me at Nicole Nahed. It's NicoleNahed on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all the places.
Very nice. And Brooke?
You can find me at
that seems fitting.
We lost you at.
Get Brooke.
Perfect timing.
We lost you. You're like at.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'm at Get You a Brooke on Instagram, TikTok, and I have a podcast called the Donuts and Dumbbells podcast on all platforms. And I have a website, which is functionaltotalfitness.com.
Awesome.
Brooke, can I ask you, where'd you come up with the name? Sorry, get you a Brooke. Where'd you come up with that?
My clients did actually. I used to be like Brooke.ftfpt, like functional total fitness personal training on Instagram, but nobody knew what the fuck that meant. And then my clients, like they would post about me on their social media pages, and they just started using the hashtag Get You a Brooke.
That's so cute.
Like they just started using it, and I'm like, God, I need to change my name. I don't know what to do. And one of my clients is like, well, get you a Brooke. That's it. Like, and I'm like, all right, here's my phone.
Awesome.
Change it.
That's amazing.
Sorry
to derail. I'm so curious.
Awesome.
No problem.
That's a great story behind it. And maybe we could do your podcast and finish the rest of these questions.
There's more.
We barely scratched the surface. I was like, Johnny sent me like 35, 33.
Crazy.
That's
I love
a lot
Q&As.
of questions.
These are fun.
That's a lot of questions.
We could just keep this going. Let's just
we're gonna
hammer through them.
Love it. I'm all in.
All right, let's do it. All right, and as everybody knows, you can catch me. What's that? Oh, sorry. I caught something. But you can catch me at Coach_FITZZ on Instagram and TikTok, and Coach Fitzz everywhere else. So again, thank you guys for coming on, and we'll see you next time.
See you soon. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Later.